Okay, my name is John Brathwaite. I'm a member of this church, First Presbyterian Church. I'm interviewing the Reverend Dr. Courtney Bryant, our new pastor at this church, and we are finding that want to learn her aspirations and what she feels the church is going to accomplish under her direction.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to just start with a few basic questions. And the first question I'd like to ask is, say that there are many motivations for our decisions. What attracted you to be motivated you to this church and this congregation?
I love that question. So this is my first pastoral assignment as lead pastor. I have been working in congregations for the past 20 years. But the opening for First Presbyterian Mount Vernon was particularly advantageous to me because I grew up right around the corner on Dell Avenue.
Oh,
And so I am a Mount Vernonite, and the community is incredibly important to me. But of course, the Christian faith has been the foundation of my life. In my interview, I told them that back in the day when I was a teenager, I used to sit on that wall, right? Waiting for the number 7 bus to go to youth group. And I always wondered, like, what goes on at this beautiful church that spans almost a block? I remember, I think I was about 17. I came to visit one day, and Pastor Rose was the pastor at the time, and she gave a really beautiful, spirited message. But I think that for me, in light of people's perceptions of Mount Vernon, it was important for me to get involved in a church that was part of the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I wanted to lean into that legacy for Mount Vernon. But in addition to that, I had a Presbyterian pastor friend who actually pastors the church in Yonkers. I think it's called South Church. And she also was from a Baptist context. So I think she helped me to realize that it was possible to lead churches outside of my traditional denomination. And so I think between the two of those things, I felt a sense of call to First Presbyterian. And so in the first interview, I met with Elder Craig, Elder Joanne, and Deacon Pat. And there was just something about that interview where I felt a sense of kinship, if you will. I felt a sense of spiritual kinship to the folks who were interviewing me, and it kind of evolved from there. I remember asking one of them if they'd be willing to open the interview in prayer, and they were actually quite hesitant to do it. But then over the course of the interview, I ended up opening up the interview in prayer, which was weird because I was the candidate, right? But taking on kind of a pastoral or leadership role, even in that interview, spoke to me in an interesting way. And by the end of the interview, it was interesting because Elder Joanne was like, "Oh, I think I want to pray." And so something about that made me feel like this was fertile ground, that it was a place where people were open to learning, open to evolving, and that I had something to offer to help that process. You know, interestingly enough, I began as super part-time. And I looked at this as an opportunity to offer my gifts in preaching and teaching to the church first and foremost. I am huge on Christian education because I feel like there are a lot of people who come to church but don't actually realize what the Bible says or what it means to be Christians. And so that's always been very important to me, to make sure that the people who are coming to church and believing that they're living Christian lives actually understand what an undertaking that is. So first and foremost, the preaching and the teaching. But then, as I said, because I come out of the community of Mount Vernon, it was incredibly important for me as well to leverage the church as an opportunity for the community to be more involved, to be more engaged in what was going on at the church, and vice versa. And so for that reason, this first year, I've been very big on reaching out to community partners, seeing how we can be of assistance, seeing what kinds of programming we can collaborate on, because I'm a very big believer that the church is not just the four walls, and that we as the church need to get out into the community to demonstrate to the community what a beautiful thing it is to be in relationship with God and to be in Christian community with one another. And so for that reason, we have collaborated with Alpha Kappa Alpha, Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Nu Omega, a number of times. We did a health fair with them. We did the Grow Bag event with the garden. We've got the partnership with EVT. We also partner with YCOP. I mean, so we are just trying to figure out how we can leverage our space, right? Because we recognize that real estate is a huge commodity in Mount Vernon. We want to figure out how we can leverage our space so that we can be of service to as many community organizations as possible. Because in doing so, we're speaking to the community, we're helping the community, but we're also making it clear to the community that we are here and that we are a resource as well. So it's hard for me to say because, as you mentioned, I got here after the pandemic. But what I will say is that as I was discerning whether or not this was the assignment for me, back in February of 2023, what was that, 2024? I can't remember. But in February, before I started at First Presbyterian, I came very incognito, just as a visitor. And I think I counted about 16 people, including myself, in the sanctuary. And I was pretty clear that that was probably a result of COVID. You know, we have people who have left the congregation or left the sanctuary, but we have a lot of people who are tuning in online. And so I was coming from All Angels Church in New York City, and they had a really thriving digital ministry and streaming ministry. So I knew what was possible. I'm happy to say that these days on First Sunday, which is a big Sunday because it's Communion Sunday, we have grown from 17 people to almost 70 people, and our streaming numbers rival that as well. So we're seeing people getting involved, but as a result of COVID, what we're also seeing is that people are engaging church in different ways. So we've always heard of, like, you know, the statement bedside Baptist, right? Which means that people are not going to church, but to be bringing church to people's living rooms through streaming really is, I think, the next frontier for this new millennium, because in a lot of ways we've got the same number of people at home streaming with us as we do in the congregation. Now the question is, when do the two meet, right? Is that possible? Do we do that more through opportunities for fellowship? Do we reach out more in terms of like digital programming? And we're trying to figure that out. But I'm really excited for the ways that the various opportunities for worship, whether it be coming in or streaming, is definitely pulling folks back in. I'll also say that during COVID, I feel like I was affected, right? I feel like I lost a year or two of my life. It's weird. I'm like, somebody said, "Oh, yeah, you know, you're going to be this age in August. My birthday's in August," and I was like, "Wait, what?" And like, it was a full year more than I thought I was. Like, I literally thought I was walking around. I was like, oh, I'm going to be 48. in August. Come to find out, I'm going to be 49, and I didn't even realize it.
Wow.
And I think part of that is the effect of COVID. But then the other thing that happened to me is I don't like to go out. Like, really, honestly, like something really special needs to be happening if you're going to get me out of my house. And I feel like there are a lot of people who are the same way. You know, you fall out of the rhythms of the daily going somewhere and being somewhere. Since COVID, I've also been working a lot from home because I'm a bivocational pastor. And so in my secular job, I work from home. And there's just something about the rhythm of life when you don't have to be at a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that I think changes um, the criteria maybe for what will get you out of the house and what won't. And so we need to be thinking about, okay, people come for the service, but they can stream the service. So that's why the fellowship hour becomes so important, because yeah, you can get the streaming, but you can't get the fellowship. And that's where the magic happens, because part of being a church community is about being in relationship with one another.
I see.
So as I mentioned, one of my biggest immediate goals is biblical literacy. I want people to be clear about what the Bible says, what is expected of them as Christians, because as I mentioned, there are a lot of Christians, not just at FPC, but you know, Church Universal, who use the moniker Christian, but are actually not engaging in Christian practices. We definitely can see that in Christian nationalists in America right now, right? Who know nothing about the love of Jesus when it comes to their neighbors. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second piece would be growing in relationship with the community. And then finally, because I'm going to keep it to 3, because when you keep it small, then you actually accomplish your goals. I really would like to see more of a youth presence at FPC. I think that's one of the things that was lost during COVID and maybe before. And so we're really putting in efforts now to figure out how to reach out to families with children. For example, at our flea market, we will also be having Bible Story Hour this summer in the hopes of making First Presbyterian a space that's hospitable to young people. Yeah, so I mean, in the future, I think that the future holds lots of possibility. I would love to see FPC function as a community hub, right? And so one of my biggest dreams is for there to be community partners that fill our building, right? But that we are all leveraging those relationships for one another. For example, EVT is here now. You guys are doing this tremendous spot on the church and a little profile on me, which is amazing because then more people learn about the church. But then what is the ways that First Presbyterian can pour into EVT? Or for that matter, when we have our summer program where YCOP comes with young people, how might EVT pour into the young people from YCOP? And how might YCOP be able to pour back into EVT to make your programming as exceptional as possible? From my perspective, we tend, particularly as a Black community, to forget how resourceful and self-reliant we are, particularly when we come together as a community. And so I am looking for us all to shine and to pour back into one another so that we can be as strong as possible, particularly as we move into these more treacherous waters that they keep saying are coming, right? It'll be incredibly important for us to be supportive of one another and of our various projects and programs.